I always have this habit that if I fall off the bandwagon of working out, and then I don't work out for a while, then I go back and work out, I always work out way too hard.
Too hard.
Because one time
Like I'm going to make up for all those days I missed.
I'm like, my muscles don't feel sore yet. I'm going to do another set, another set.
Exactly.
Not realizing that those first 3 sets are going to make me real sore. Just
and
going to be an hour later.
And then you wake up and you're cooked.
Yeah. What a story with asthma and all these different things that are just other obstacles that you have to deal with in the midst of building, growing, and doing fitness stuff. Like that's fitness influencer, asthma, great mix. You know what I mean?
Well, professional football player.
Yeah, exactly.
Asthma.
There you go. Yeah.
That's probably the toughest one. I was on the sidelines at times, just using my puffer, trying to gasp for air, but the cold games were the worst.
The cold game, like November, right?
Yeah, end of October, November.
Because you played Edmonton, right?
Yeah, I played for Edmonton for 2 years, and then I also played for BC.
Oh man! And at what age were you?
So I would have been. So my last year was in 2022, and I'm 31 now. So yeah.
Okay.
Do
you miss it?
My 20s. I miss it.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah. What do you miss about it?
There's so many things, but I would probably say just the locker room camaraderie was amazing. The family bond. There's something different about lining up with like 50 guys and you all have the same common goal, and you're going against another 50 guys. Like it literally feels like, you know, those old school movies that you see where they're at war and there's like 1,000 men on either side and they just run towards each other. That's the best way to describe it. So in a way that you know that you're safe to the point where obviously you're not going to die in battle, but I mean, some people actually do, but there's just something about that.
It's the same like
craziest feeling.
Yeah.
But yeah,
there's still that adrenaline. I think that's probably what it is, right?
Yeah. It's the adrenaline. There's that feeling that you get when you run out of the tunnel and there's 30,000 fans watching you.
Yep.
That feeling is also
nuts.
Something that you can't really recreate. And so it's kind of just like the feeling of like climbing that mountain, you know? And so pretty much ever since football has been done for me, I've just been like, what is that mountain that I want to climb now? You know, I feel like everyone needs to just have something in their life that they're going towards, whether it's like a marathon or, you know, whether they're trying to become a podcaster or they want to make a football team, like just having that one goal to just wake up and it's like, okay, what's my mission today? So,
well, it's like purpose.
Yeah.
Right. The 2 million Instagram followers doesn't give you the 30,000 feel, or
it's similar. It's very similar.
Okay. It's true though, because you don't see them. You don't like, and comments and shares and likes. That's different than playing in an arena or a stadium with people that are like there. Yeah. Right. Yeah. But that's
totally. It doesn't give you quite the same feeling, but there will be times where I'm out in public and people will recognize me or, you know, want to come up to me and take a picture with me or say, like I took a trip to Arizona and I was in the Arizona airport and a 13-year-old girl came up to me and was like, can I take a picture with you? You're the barbell backflip guy, or you're the guy that did the Oreo dunk. Like, and it's just like, I'm in Arizona. Like how,
I know.
How did this little 13-year-old know about me or find me or like, so there's little moments like that throughout your days that, I guess give you that reassurance that people are seeing it. It's resonating with people and it's doing good.
I know, right? It's what made you? How did football end?
Well,
it's probably a big story, but
for lack of a better way to put it, I personally feel like when I reflect on it, I personally feel like I was the reason that it ended.
Okay.
Now, the way that I was moving throughout my seasons at that point in my life wasn't someone that would reflect somebody that was trying to be the absolute best version of themselves. So I still had poor habits that were holding me back from being the football player that I wanted to be ultimately. And so when I look back on it now, and I'm a much different person. This is 3 years later. I've changed so much about myself and just the way that I carry myself. If I had the opportunity now, I feel like I'd be able to flourish much more than I was at the time. So there were little things that I was doing that were holding me back from being the best player. So essentially, I just wasn't good enough. And,
Mm-hmm.
I never re-signed back with the team, and the team let me go, and no one ever re-signed me since. So
Mm-hmm.
essentially, it was me, because I
Mm-hmm.
felt like I still have, even currently to this day, I still have a few good football years in me, talent wise, athletically, mentally. But yeah, the person that I was 3 years ago, it wasn't cutting it.
Yeah. Was it a mindset switch? So you say now you think you could, well, you probably know you could,
Mm-hmm.
in the sense of the difference between what you were in there, because you said that comment about being different now. Was it
Yeah.
a mindset change from there? Obviously, there's a discipline
Yeah.
aspect in there,
Yeah.
and you could be the most disciplined person ever to make a professional football team,
Mm-hmm.
but still be undisciplined enough to not push you forward in your discipline. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't know if that
100%.
makes sense, but
Yeah.
so does a mindset switch? Like what changed?
You can't be the best version of yourself when on the weekends you're indulging in alcohol and
Mm-hmm.
partying.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be the best version of yourself if a good portion of the day you're not spending studying your playbook, knowing exactly what to do, rehearsing your routes, going over your stuff. You just can't. And so I would say those are probably some of the main things that were. And then there was the mental side of it. Like, I had anxieties around football that I hadn't addressed. And I feel like if I would have had somebody, like a sports psychologist or somebody to work with that on some of those fears or some of those anxieties, that would have allowed me to be a much better player. But I think first and foremost, it was the weekends that I was choosing to have that were setting me back every single week. It's like you can have such a great week of preparation and become that good version of yourself, and then you ruin it and you set yourself all the way back with one night of drinking.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So,
Mm-hmm.
and it's hard. You're playing professional football. You got a spotlight on you. You go out with your boys on the weekends. You guys are celebrating a win, and we get it. You want to drink, you want to have fun. But if you look at some of the greats like LeBron James or Kobe Bryant, like very rarely probably did anyone ever see Kobe Bryant at the club partying.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there's a reason why he's one of the greatest basketball players to ever do it, right?
Yep.
So had he been doing that, he would, there are players in the league that struggle with, whatever it may be, addictions or just bad habits that are limiting them from being the best version of themselves. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like I was kind of a victim of that, and it was all my doing. And 3 years later, now I'm here, and I look back on it, and I'm just, sometimes I beat myself up, but I'm just like, you know what? That's the process. That was your journey of life, and that's your story. And you've learned from those mistakes,
Oh
and now
yeah.
you're here, and you're making some moves, and you're making the changes that you need to go forward.
Well, I think that everything you go through in life, if filtered properly, leads you to something beautiful, and everything that you went through almost needed to happen in order to get you to where you probably are now.
The key word, if filtered properly.
Exactly. Well,
Because
that
some people use it for their downfall,
100%.
which
Yeah.
is what we call the victim's mindset. Some
Yeah.
people use it to fuel them and drive them to whatever they're trying to accomplish. So
Well, there's a justification that I feel like happens even in celebrating, right? When you accomplish something big, when you had a bad day, when things didn't go the way that you thought, I feel like there's an aspect of I deserve this now because of the day I went through, and it could be win or loss. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I could go through a really hard day, hard conversations, hard staffing issues, hard people issues, whatever it might be, grief, it could be loss, it could be whatever it is. And if I'm not careful, I'll feel like because of that, I deserve something.
Right.
Right. And it's
Right.
like, I don't deserve that because I went through a normal day that every other human being
Totally.
goes through, maybe in just a different capacity. You know what I mean? So
100%.
maybe, I don't know, is there an aspect of like you talked about weekends celebrating, which are great. I mean, everyone should enjoy their weekends. Everyone should enjoy their celebrating. Everyone should have those moments. But does it go too far with some of us because there's that deserving aspect that we feel that's in it? You know what I mean? Like if I don't do that, then it's like, oh, I deserve that, man. Like I should do that.
Yeah, totally. Well, when I think back at it, it's like okay, we won one game of the season. What is there to celebrate? Like, we didn't accomplish anything.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, that's a good step in the journey towards potentially winning a championship game.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't win the championship.
No.
You celebrate when you achieve the main goal.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I feel like I personally took it too far in celebrating those small wins when I probably should have just saved it for the big game.
Yep.
And if it doesn't happen, sure, take one day, celebrate a hard fought season that didn't go the way that you wanted, and then just get back to the drawing board, get back to work.
Mm-hmm. Because I've heard you. We've been friends for a bit now, and through different conversations, whether lunch or coffee or whatever it might be, or in the halls at church, you've mentioned a few things of your past to me in passing, of it not being the hardest or not being the easiest coming up, so to speak, right? And so from what people see you right now, they see you as an Instagram influencer, probably more so than ever right now because of the 2.3 million now, 2.2 million, somewhere in there,
like that,
right?
yeah.
You're gonna be at 5 million at some point when you're on the podcast again, and it'll be great. But then before that, you were an athlete. Well, you still are an athlete, but you were a professional athlete that was playing football. What you must have had a mindset change or discipline or something in it. And you see this story in many different people within professional sports. And I'd say almost predominantly in football. Football seems to be that one, that the stories that come out of these professional athletes are unbelievable. And so not in a nutshell, but what was your childhood like that brought you to the man that you are today? And did your childhood influence who you are today, or show you what you didn't want to be or what you did want to be?
Yeah. So I read this book once and it talked about this story where you have two identical twins. Their father was an alcoholic. One of those twins grew up to be an alcoholic, just like his dad, homeless in the streets. But the other twin grew up to have a family, a good paying job, very successful. The only difference between those two individuals is the way that they chose to respond to the negative things of their life or whatever traumas that came with it, right? So on one hand, it sounds like the one who ended up an alcoholic and in the streets may have adopted that victim mindset, or the trauma just overtook him to the point where he felt like, or maybe the pain was too strong that he felt like he had to turn to the bottle or turn to the streets to take away some of that pain or temporarily relieve some of that pain. But the one who was successful, it sounds like he used his past story and the hard doings in his life as fuel to catapult him to, where he wanted to go. Or maybe it was just a dead example of, I see what my dad's done and I want to be nothing like that. And so he just took it and chose to be the opposite. So like you mentioned about perspective, it's just the way that you kind of look at your story, the cards that you were dealt, and choose to respond to those things. Most people decide to have a child when they're in their late 20s, maybe in their 30s. My mom had me when she was 15.
Wow.
So if you could think back to a time when you were 15, what you would have been doing, probably running the halls in church. Yeah. You have your group of friends, you're doing sleepovers, you're hanging out, you're eating candies and playing video games. Well, my mom was taking care of a child.
That's nuts, man.
And so, yeah, kudos to her. So I come from a big family. I'm the oldest of 5. I'm kind of the leader of the pack. I like to call myself.
Yeah. I'm sure your siblings love hearing
yeah,
that.
But, right, exactly.
You're true.
But yeah, grew up without a father. Found myself hanging with the wrong crew in high school or all throughout elementary, and getting myself in trouble, right? We weren't doing good things. I was hanging with the cool kids, as we called them at the time. And I found myself in trouble, was arrested for things that I ended up doing with this group of friends, right? So I'd like to say that they influenced me in a negative way, but I was just as much of an influence on them as they were me, right? So we were all kind of doing it together. I struggled with alcohol abuse and drug addiction for, a greater portion of my life. And this is something that not a lot of people know about me.
Hmm.
This is actually the first time that I'm ever mentioning it publicly.
Wow.
Your followers and your fans will know about this before mine, because I've never really spoke about this too much on my platform and
Hmm.
stuff like that. But and the real reason behind that was because I was playing professional football, and it didn't feel like the right time to kind of talk about that. Like, I
Hmm.
didn't feel like I wanted my head coaches and teammates to know about those things about me just quite yet. But now that I'm done with that and I am my own brand, it's my truth, and it's what's real to me. And it's just my story, and it's just the reason I do what I do is because, and with the social platform that I have, is because I feel like that those things are like almost God given. Like, and no, when I say that, like, no, God didn't make me abuse alcohol. He didn't make me use drugs, but the fact that that is my story, I can now use those things to show other people that if that is your beginning, then it is just that. It's just your beginning. It doesn't have to be your end, right?
No.
And
Yeah.
so to wrap it all up, I used all of those things, not having a father, abusing drugs, being raised by a mother that was 15. It was probably not the best upbringing. We struggled with money, we struggled with so many other things, but the perspective that I chose to have against those things, I looked at not having a father and said, I want to become the best father that I possibly can. I looked at using drugs and using alcohol to say that now I want to teach younger people that they don't need to go a life with drinking and alcohol, and that there are other ways to, you know, cope with whatever it is you're struggling with, um, so much more positively. And
Hmm.
so to
That's
wrap it
crazy.
all up, it's just using your story to show people that you can make better of yourself based on the things that have happened to you.
That's very respectable and very inspiring, because you're just like, what? I think there's so many perspectives on earth, and everyone, I was just telling this to my wife the other day, I'm like, everyone has problems. Hey, you look around, everyone, like every
100%.
single person has problems that they think are the biggest problems on earth. Every single person,
Oh,
right?
yes.
And the perspective to understand that my problems aren't the biggest, and it actually changed a lot of that.
Hmm.
I've heard someone say to me, they just said, you know what, you always learn something from your dad. You either learn what you want to be or what you don't want to be, right? But your
100%.
perspective is very important for that. And like you said, some people adopt that kind of mentality of a victim, where it's like, well, this happened to me. Yes, but something has happened to every single person on earth, and you can point people out that go, that person let it define them, that
Hmm.
person let it fuel them. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, there's a difference there. Motivate them, encourage them. And I think that's the biggest thing. I mean, John Maxwell always says, sometimes you win and sometimes you learn.
Hmm.
I don't think everyone learns, though.
No,
It's a choice, right? When you win, great, fantastic. But if you don't win, you didn't lose. It's just a good learning experience that could catapult you to the next win.
for
You know what
sure.
I mean?
But you have to have that mentality to see it that way,
100%.
though,
Yep.
because
Yep.
there's so many people that will experience something and they don't, or experience a loss and they don't look at it for that lesson. Sometimes you got to look into it for the lesson. It's like, well, okay, I lost. What was the lesson in all of this? What can I take from this? And
Hmm.
ultimately, that's what playing professional sports taught me, was on those tough games, on those days where we lost and we got beat up. It's like, what did we learn here?
Hmm.
How can we watch the tape and see the mistakes that we made? How can we get just a little better so that, when we come in next week, we can try and win.
Seriously. Were you guys, was your family, um, I mean, for everyone watching this, they understand. I don't like the term religious. It's just like,
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, you've heard me at church and stuff, but sometimes it's the only way to describe what people are at
Hmm.
times. But was your family ever religious in any way? Like growing up?
I feel like when I was really young, there was a bit of like a Catholic background. I know my grandfather used to attend Catholic church and stuff like that. But growing up, I wouldn't say so. It wasn't until actually a player from the Bombers, his name was Kevin Fogg. He actually invited me out to church one day, and this would have been probably 5, 6, 7 years ago. And I was like, yeah, I'll come with you. Like, I'll come check it out. And literally from that day on, I feel like I've been to church every single Sunday ever since.
Wow.
You know, give or take if I've been out of town or whatever.
Of course,
But yeah, so you do see me at church with my family, but it wasn't always like that. I
No.
would sit in Springs Church in a solo chair by myself and
Yeah.
just be there and just be happy to be in God's presence. But not my past. Actually, yeah, it would have been last September for my birthday. September 17th is my birthday. And I said to my mom, the only thing that I want for my birthday is for you guys to come to church with me. And she was like, absolutely.
Wow.
And from that day on, my mom, my 2 sisters, her baby have been to church every single time.
That's so sweet.
The greatest birthday present I could have ever asked for.
Well, yeah, it's the ongoing, it's life change. That's like
100%.
I know I've met some of your friends and that you've brought to church and some of your siblings that you brought to church. And it's so cool to see the family. Cause I've actually, believe it or not, I've noticed whether, really directed as like not subconscious, but consciously, I have noticed in the past you come by yourself. Years, however long it's been that you've been coming to Springs, but and I've seen that, and it's so cool to see the time go by and the row slowly grow. I think that was really, really, really cool. And I'm like, oh, he's got someone with him this time. But what I really respected about you was someone who, when you get a following like you do, most people, they literally sacrifice all ethics, all morals, all discipline, all motivation, all encouragement, all everything of what their genuine heart beliefs are to appease the people following them. And that is a hard, and I get it because I understand there's a living in there, there's money to be made in there, there's providing for your family in there. But I'm under the belief always that if we lift up God in our situation, and there's a sacrifice that's involved in our life to live a life after God, it's like he will, it says in the Bible, you'll eat with kings and queens, man. Like that's just how it works, right? And I love when someone genuinely operates in that way and tests God in that, right? Because ultimately faith is a little bit of a test sometimes with God. It's like, it's like, all right, I'll do this, but the sacrifice to maybe say something on your Instagram or show something on your Instagram, you often have posted things of the dichotomy between what you used to do versus what your Sundays look now, right? And it's like Sundays before versus Sundays now, and it was like clubbing and partying, and then all of a sudden it's now hands raised worshiping God. Like that's not an easy thing to post. You know what I mean? Like that's hard, man. Like that's so hard. And every time I see it, I'm like, thank you, man. I appreciate that because it's so you have such influence, and people are like, okay, if he can be cool, if he can be fit, if he can have so many followers, if he can do this and still has that in his life, like then I can too. I don't have to give up that to serve God. Actually, it just magnifies the beauty of your life when you do. 100%. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, the reason I do it is because it's literally the truth. Like that is literally how it was, and that is how it is now. And you can like, the difference is just tenfold. I was stuck before I started coming to church. Like I had reached a point where like I'm stuck. Like I couldn't get any further past where I was in life, in relationships, financially, on the social media or whatever it may be. And then it's like, it was almost like night and day. Like the second that I chose to transition and just take that leap of faith, like everything just changed. And so there's no real other way to put it, but it's like that is God's work right there. And
it is. And it's his will. You know what I mean? Like it can be confusing sometimes because lots of Bible verses that talk about his will being a mystery and the secrets of his will. And but that's ultimately what it is. It's to experience heaven on earth. And you can do that through there's a sacrifice and a surrender, obviously, that's involved in following God. But it's not much of a sacrifice once you do it long enough to realize what God brings to your life. You know what I mean?
That's exactly it. And some of the verses I've been reading is just like, yeah, essentially giving up those fleshly desires that we all have and just choosing to step into the word and the truth of God and of the Bible. And when you do that, you start to realize that the perks that come with that completely outweigh the fleshly desires.
Oh yeah.
And don't get me wrong, they're still there. There's still temptation. Those things will.
And they always will be.
They will always be there. But what's on the other side of that fence is different. And I feel like that is the difference between a lot of people that are struggling with life and don't know how to make those changes. There's one person in particular that I'm thinking about right now, and I would never mention a name, but I've been kind of nudging them like, man, come to church with me. Like, come check it out, see what it's all about. And I can clearly see they're struggling in their life with alcohol and just not able to break through that. And I can see there's a lot of pain there and a lot of trauma and a lot of something going on. And it's like, dude, if you could just see what is on the other side of this wall, you would be amazed and your life would change forever. But I just can't seem to get him over that fence, you know?
Well, you will. And
totally.
And there's multiple stories. There's one I was told just recently in church. And then maybe he listens to this and that's great. I actually don't even know if I've met this guy, but I've heard it through the grapevine of the testimony. But he came to church around 6 months ago, struggling with addiction. Like heard I'm saying my message because this was his testimony. I'm not saying it was my message that did it, but he heard my message. He prayed the salvation prayer. And then, so became a Christian, said, I believe in Jesus. And from that day, this is 6 months ago now, he said, I've been addiction free from the moment I accepted Jesus. And I was like, oh my goodness. Then 6 months later, he gets baptized on our Sunday. And that's the kind of like, the transition, the change, the life transformation that happened in his life based on like you can't explain that to the world. Because they're like, well, how? I don't know. Well, I do know. It's God's grace. It's God's power. It's God's leading. It's God's strength. It's like, I spoke about it on Sunday and I love the verse that it says, God will use the foolish things of the world to shame those who are wise, and uses the weak things of the world to shame those who think they're strong, right? And it just shows that you don't need to be anyone spectacular. You don't need to have a following. You don't need to be on stage. You don't need to have a ton of friends. You can be someone who dropped out in grade 5 and can barely read, even though society might view you as someone who's an idiot. God doesn't view you like that. And on the other side, you can be the most popular king and you could have all the strength and wisdom in the world, but then God will use something from a different aspect of your life that you never would have thought was wise. And it becomes the wisest thing you've ever done in your life. And so it's very beautiful that God just kind of puts everyone on the same playing field, no matter where you're from, no matter what you do, no matter whether you have public fame or you have public shame. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. God can use you. And that's a really, really beautiful. And what I think is really cool is that you see it in church. The good churches are the ones that genuinely speak the gospel, obviously, don't compromise what the word says, but are a place where you're accepted to come as you are. And it's like, if someone at Springs judges someone, don't reflect that on the church, because that's just a broken person. You know what I mean? And that's where it comes from. And it's just like, you see guys and girls that are just changing, families that are changing, and you don't know why apart from God. And that's all you can say. That's it.
Totally. Yeah, no, I think to speak to that point, it's like addiction, whether it be alcohol or drugs, like what I said before, it will always keep you from being the best version of yourself. Those are the fleshly desires, or those are things that we use to, mask some of the pain that we're experiencing or whatever it is. But a really profound message that I received when I was at church, this would have been like 6 months ago. But we were worshiping, and I don't know what it was, but God just spoke over me and he said, the place where I have you going, alcohol has no place. And like, it just resonated with me so much, because it's like, he's telling me I need you to speak to kids. I need you to speak on podcasts. I need you to make videos that inspire people, but you can't do that when your mind isn't clear. You know, that's what alcohol and drugs it does, is it clouds your mind and your vision and everything. It's all distorted.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're sober, it's just like water. Your mind is just free.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't be able to sit here on this podcast if I were still using, you know, like there would be anxieties, or I wouldn't be able to present my best self or inspire somebody. So,
well, I think that's a perfect point, because you've mentioned a couple of times that the addiction sometimes, or most of the times, is used as a cover up of the pain, right? But I feel like people define it as why they're doing it as it fulfills something in them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like yes, it covers up the pain, but it fulfills falsely something in them.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, that's
well,
the
it's filling
crazy
a void,
part.
right?
100%.
It's filling a void. It's like it numbs the pain. So you could be going through your struggles of your day, of whatever happened in your life, and it's an antidepressant. So you drink and you just feel good for, 5-6 hours, whatever it is. But then you wake up and it's 10 times worse
yeah.
because now you still have all of those problems plus a big fat hangover.
Yeah.
and you've just set you've just set yourself back so much. So it's like
100%.
It just holds you back.
It's never gotten out of my head since my dad. So I was raised in a family that lots of first responders, lots of nurses, lots of medical world people that dealt with a lot of hurt and saw a lot of loss that was completely to do with the abuse of alcohol and drugs and different things like that. And so I was raised in a way that was like, don't touch alcohol. Right. Different. Almost to the point where it was like, whoa, this is like a huge stance to take. Like, this is ridiculous. Right. So, and I'm glad they did it, obviously. But for me, I was just like, well, it's such a big part of so many people's day and years and life. But I have never touched it. And now I would if I wanted to.
Which is amazing, by the way.
Oh,
I tip my hat to you, because I truly, the first time we sat down for lunch, you told me that, and I thought that was phenomenal. And no, I really respect that.
Well, I appreciate, and it's not a way for me to say that I'm better than anyone, because actually not touching it for a while, I lived with shame of, I don't have a testimony. I don't have a great testimony. And then similar to you, I felt God speak to me saying, but that is your testimony. You know what I mean? Like, but you stayed away from it. Right. Yeah. And the testimony can be the same, whether you've gone into it and gotten out of it as if it's kind of kept away from it. Right. Yeah. But one of the biggest things my dad used to always say that really resonated with me, and I just strive to be that, was he says the times that he's ever been high, and it was more so for medical reasons, surgeries, things like that. He's like, it felt like a low for me. And that's where I was like, okay, there it is. So if you surrender, sacrifice, and those are two big words to say that people have a negative connotation in it, for sure, in their life, because they feel like they have to give up something they love in order to surrender. But you actually start to realize that God creates a life within you, within your family, within your marriage, one day, within whatever it is. If people are listening, maybe they're single, they have no kids, doesn't matter. But one day and right now, it creates a life within them that, if they were to ever take something as a stimulant, it actually does feel like a low compared to the life you live every day. For sure. Right. And that was something that I've kept my focus on for a long time. And because of that, people are like, well, he's never touched alcohol, therefore he judges it. No, don't judge it in a little bit. It doesn't bother me in the slightest. I have friends that do it. I have friends that I'll be out for dinner with and they'll have a beer. It doesn't bother me in the slightest. Never has. The abuse of it always has and always will bother me. But that's just because I've seen a lot of pain with it. I saw, like, legitimately, it was 12, I was 13 years old. I was in Calgary and we were parked at a light, me and my sister and my other sister. And we're not parked, stopped at a red light. And this massive semi truck came barreling down the lane that we were just in, smashing the car that was right in front of him, stopped at the red light. and dragged this vehicle 300 yards off into the side of the ditch. Wow. And of course, we just watched this happen. So we pulled off. We're seeing what's going to go on.
Yeah.
We see this driver of this cement truck get out, climb up the ladder of the cement truck, and throw this bottle of whiskey or bottle of something in the back of his thing.
Wow.
And it was what we saw in a 13-year-old. I'm 5 feet away from a car, seeing a man and a woman just sprawled out on the dash, seeing blood, and then I'm seeing a car that is pushed up into the back of the driver's seat and passenger seat. So the back of the car is gone. And then people started freaking out, and through that, obviously my sister was over 18, so she was interviewed by the police, and it was we're on the way to a youth event. It was crazy. And then we are told that there was 3 kids in the back. And I'm just like, what? And then we are told it was 2 different families, 2 separated marriages that were in a dating phase with each other now. So he had 2 kids in the car and she had 1 kid in the car.
Wow.
And so that broke up 2 different families. Of course, actually all 5 in that car passed away within 3 hours of that accident. And it's those moments that I remember that make me go, no. Like that's enough for me to remember.
100%.
But for me, I'm just like, it's just not worth it. And I have a very addictive personality. I do. If you put me on something, like, I mean, anything. If I get into golfing, I will be addicted to it. If I get into, if you get me into working out full on, it will become my life. Yes, I'm very addictive. If you put a Coca-Cola in front of me, I will drink the entire 2 liters. Like that's just, I can be so addictive. And that has always also kept me in there. Yeah. And that's my response to everyone. It's like, why don't you drink? I'm like, because I wouldn't stop. Exactly. That's why I don't drink. Exactly. And I never will because of that. And so it's just, I keep it lighthearted, and it's like, it doesn't bother me. It's not a judgment thing. It's just my own, I know that I'm better off without it. Right.
1000%.
So it's, I think it's big that way. But what do you think in your life? So now man, there's so many questions that I have going around in my head, but so when did your Instagram fame start? Was that post football?
So just before I ever made it pro was probably when I started shooting my first videos around 2019. So this would have been like 6 years ago, maybe even 7 years ago. I had dropped a few videos, and it kind of just started with like, I had the skill of football, but I also had the skill of gymnastics. So I was like, how can I combine these 2 things and just make it unique, make it different, right? And so I started filming like backflip football catches and stuff like that, or I would do these things where I'd put like soap on my hands and like catch the football.
Yeah.
And I was always good at those 2 things. So I wanted to merge them, put them together. And then I started doing that just for fun. You know, I'd be in the field in front of my house, shooting some of these videos just on a phone. Wasn't anything crazy. But then I started posting it, and like there was a little bit of love on it. And I'm like, man, this is kind of cool. And so I just kind of kept doing that casually. Would just throw up a few videos here and there. And it kind of just started going into the fitness a little bit. And so I was just going wherever it took me. And remember one time I was just at the field, at Dakota Field, training, and I just finished a field session. And I had this idea come in my head where I was like, yo, what if I put a glass of milk and I get an Oreo and I do a round off backflip, and while I'm upside down, I perfectly dunk the Oreo in the cup. And I was like, this just sounds crazy.
Yeah.
And generally when I get these ideas in my mind, if I can vision my own body doing it, I'm like, I know it's possible.
Yeah.
And so literally right then and there, I called my videographer at the time, or just a friend that I knew that worked with a camera. And I was like, can you come down to the field? He's like, bet, I'll be there in 30 minutes. I ran to Walmart, grabbed Oreos, grabbed a cup, and literally within an hour, like I had shot this Oreo backflip cookie dunk, which is now like one of my most viral videos. There's people either know me for 2 things. I'm either the barbell backflip guy or the Oreo dunk guy. Yeah. So That's was sweet. The moment where I had my first like viral taste of what it could be like. And I mean, from there, the numbers on Instagram started going up. And then from that point on, it was always just like, I just kept going with the fitness stuff. And during that time, I was then, drafted by Edmonton, was playing football, but I was finding it tough to like shoot content and play football, pro football at the same time. And so I was managing, but it was kind of taking away from my game. And that's another one of those things that I speak about where it's like the things that I was doing wasn't allowing me to be the best player that I possibly could have been.
And sometimes it's not bad things.
It's not a bad thing at all, because when you look back at it, there's a lot of people who play professional football, but then when it's done, they don't have anything. And I think that was the biggest thing in my life that made it so easy to transition out of playing professional football. I mean, it was the biggest thing in my life for a greater portion of like 10 years that I was playing football, right? So when you take that away, it's almost like you kind of lose that identity of like, who am I, you know? But I had already been shooting my videos, and I had a lot of my identity wrapped up in that. And so it was a smooth transition. Like as soon as football was done, I was like, awesome. I can put more time and effort into my videos, and I'll still train for football on the side in case something shakes back. But it just allowed me to flourish so much more in that space. And so glad that I did it all throughout, you know, playing pro football. And I used football to me. And the reason why I still love it until this day is because I feel like it's the reason why I am where I am today. Because playing professional football gave me like a bit more of a platform. It gave me more of a brand. It allowed me to build my own personal brand while playing professional football, so that when I stepped away from it, I could have something to work on. Like I mentioned before, that mountain to climb. Right. So, that's pretty much the story behind like the content in football.
And did it like, I don't know, like it gave you the itch, obviously, like seeing that viral, the comments, the likes, the shares, that had to have, because it obviously sprung into what it is today.
Yeah. So I talk about this a lot actually with some of my family. And it's like, when I started shooting videos, when I had a viral video, it hit my ego. Like it went straight to the ego. And I was like, wow, that felt good.
Yeah.
Like I just had millions of views. All these people were watching me. They're, you know, giving me props. Like it felt good. And so when I first started creating content, it was mostly ego based. 98% of it was like, this feels good to get this praise and recognition from other people. And now that I've done enough content, now that I've grown in my relationship with God, done some work on myself to heal from those things that make me even feel the need to have an ego. Now it's solely about just inspiring others and using my story to help the next man, basically. And so, yeah,
that's the motivation in that is what I think attributes to your success. You know what I mean? Like the motivation behind not just being a viral video, but being something that genuinely might aspire people to change or transform or see that there's a bigger picture or something better for them to do. Obviously in the relationship with God sense of that, it's like God does have a plan for every single person. You know what I mean? And whether you walk in that plan's up to you. And I think that's the beauty of the faith that we have, is that it's not like meant to push you, not meant to make you stumble, not meant to make you feel like you're not enough without it, but just saying, hey, he's there and your life can change if it goes that way. How hard has that been with what you do, with your Instagram, with your YouTube, with everything you're doing right now? How hard is that, like that line to are you at the point where you're like, I don't care, this is a part of my life and it's going to be a part of this journey? Or is there that, and this is not a bad thing, or is that still that side that goes like, maybe it will hinder some of it? How do you kind of articulate, how do you walk that line?
Are you talking about like my relationship with God?
Your relationship with God,
create content
and to appease maybe the followers that you have, right? Because you're gonna have some that will unfollow you because like, oh, this guy's religious, and they're just gonna go off on that. But then there's also a lot of people that would follow you because of that too.
Well, I think speaking on what we spoke about before, about when I did step into the presence of God and started incorporating, you know, reading the Bible and attending church and really just having faith, how it catapulted everything that I do. Like it literally 10x'd everything I do. And so I'm like, how could I deny that person in the eyes of these followers? and so it just comes down to just like walking in my truth.
Yep.
And I don't want anybody to like the fake version of me. Anybody can go on Instagram, and a lot of people do go on Instagram, put up a front, claim they live this certain way when really they're doing this on the side or whatever it may be. And so if you don't like me for me, then I don't want you to like me at all, you know? So I want to just walk in my truth. And that's why I'm here today talking about, you know, addiction and alcohol and whatever struggles I may have had in the past, because the truth is that is a part of my past, but it also is a part of my story.
Yeah.
And I see it as my calling, and the calling that God has asked of me is just to like, just use those things. Like you can go to school and you can get a degree and, you know, become a great social worker or whatever it may be, or a psychologist or whatever. But the things that I experienced in life, or the things that you've experienced in life, like those things can't be taught in school. And so to me, my past is like the greatest degree of all. And I'm going to use every single bit of it to inspire the next man. And these are all things that 100% of the world is struggling with, whether we believe it or not.
Yeah.
Like you said, every single person has their own struggles. It may be addiction, it may be gambling, it may be anger issues, it may be whatever. And I've had it all. So I'm just sitting here as a human being using my story to hopefully inspire the next man who I know is struggling with something. And if I've been through it and I've been able to change it and turn it around, I live by this quote. And this quote goes like, no matter where you're at in life, no matter what hardships you've been through, no matter how down you are, if you still have a heartbeat inside your chest, like you can turn your life around.
Yeah.
And I firmly believe that, because I truly, truly believe that I've been absolutely at the bottom, maybe in my own way, but I have been at the bottom. I felt what it is like to be very close to death.
Yeah.
Many of times. And that's a place that I never want to go back, but I was able to climb my way out of that. And I believe that if I can do it, anybody else can do it.
100%. Yeah. I think that's what the world lacks in at times, is the transparency, just to allow you're, like you said, you're so used to hiding things from the world because of maybe the fear some people have that it might change the future in a negative way for themselves, or might get them hated.
Fear of judgment too, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that it's just funny because the Bible flips that script all of the time, every time. It literally says like, the more transparent you are, pretty much is the better I can, the more my strength will work. You know what I mean?
Well, it's so freeing, right?
Ugh.
Like, I don't have to walk with a shell. I don't have to, like, I can just show up to here. I'm on a podcast. I could show up to church or wherever I go, and I could just be me and walk in my truth. And I don't have to, you know, put on this front that I'm something that I'm not. Like I am who I am.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is where freedom starts, though. You know what I mean? When we walk in the truth of that we have in the word, but we allow our experiences to be shaped by it. There's a difference there, right? And most of the world who don't like, maybe are disconnected from Jesus and that relationship with him. I've said it multiple times from the stage actually recently, but it's because a lot of the time they're allowing their experiences to shape the word, right? They think, well, I'm going through hell right now. Yep. So that means that doesn't work. You know what I mean? Whereas if you just change your belief system onto what the word says and allow it to shape what you do, how you walk, where you go, how you talk, you actually be able to see God's movement a lot more in your life, because it's something that actually is really cool. You know what I mean? It changes things. It's like, it's just real. Yeah. And that's why I guess I get so sick of religion, because I'm just like, why do so many people who claim to be religious turn off the people that aren't religious? You know what I mean? I just get so irritated, because I'm like, we are not doing what we're supposed to do. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, don't get me wrong. There's obviously a respect that needs to be mutual if you come to our church. For sure. You know what I mean? Yeah. But what you do in your life doesn't change the fact that you can come to church. Right. What you do in our halls might change the fact that what you can come to church, right? What you do against the law while you're running might change the fact that you come to church. But who you are and where you've come from and what you're in right now, that's all fine. I think the big motive for me is the fact that I just want to view every single person like God views them. Is we all have problems, but everyone has potential. And so why don't we view people through the lens of potential rather than the lens of you screwed up? You know what I mean? And there's this stupid description that seems to be caught everywhere. Actually more taught in the world that we live in, where it's like, well, if God's grace, that's a little bit too big for God's grace to cover. You know what I mean? Oh, you're screwing up a little bit too much. And it's like, are you kidding me? I loved that guest speaker we had, Jeremy Foster, a while back. He always said, you don't fall from grace, you fall to it. Exactly. Right? So the more you screw up, it actually you fall to grace. I'm not going to say the more you screw up, the more God can work through it. But of course God can work through it. Yeah. He can work through your screw ups and he can work through your not screw ups. But 100%. The screw ups shouldn't take you away from his presence. It should bring you to it. And a lot of the time you see someone hit rock bottom, and that's when they finally find their faith, because they've tried everything else. Yeah. And it didn't work. Right. And that's, man, it's still, I can only imagine how hard it would be to walk in the shoes of fame and choose not to give up your beliefs. Like that's a big thing, a really big thing. But the world's trendy right now. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's the hard part. I think we all want to jump on trends and we all want to get on these different things. And we think that if we don't jump on the trends, it's like, well, we might not be liked, or we might slow our growth, or we might do these different things. But it's like, I think everyone makes decisions based on the fact that everyone thinks this is popular to do. Yeah. It's not because I believe in this. It's not because any of that. It's actually because, well, will I be liked if I don't do this, or whether I do this? Right. But the moment that, and you see Christianity actually becoming a lot more trendy right now too, right? Totally. And you got to fight that a little bit, because it's like, is it real or is it not? Is it for likes or is it for your life? You know what I mean? And I don't know what the like I said, my story and your story are very different. My story is I grew up in church, and that had its different things and pros and cons, right? But I don't know what motivates people in that sense sometimes as to what brought them where they are and what they attribute that success to. But what I love seeing in Instagram, YouTube, everything right now is that you see a lot of people giving glory to God now. And you're just like, more than I've seen in my lifetime on socials, which I think is absolutely beautiful. Because you're a father. How old's your daughter?
Yeah, my daughter's 9.
9. That's crazy.
Yeah. And also, nobody knows this. First time your followers are going to hear this before mine, but I also have a baby on the way.
Yeah, there you go. That's I did hear that. You guys told me a while back. Yeah, we did tell you. That's exciting, man. That's like so crazy. So crazy. So you're going to be a father of 2 soon.
Exactly. And, I'm excited, man. It's been a while since I've been a father. Well, since you've been in baby stage. A baby. Yeah. Exactly. And so they always say that, no matter which kid it is, they'll all receive a different parent. And I think that's so cool, because, man, the person I was 9 years ago for my daughter, although I was a good father, I had my flaws. And even where I'm at today, I still have my flaws, but the parent that this next child will receive will be vastly different from the 9 years ago version of me. So I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. But
that's a testimony in itself, right? Yeah. The fact that you're not the same person as 9 years ago. Right. And hopefully in 5 years from now, you're not going to be the same person as you are today, because that's how God works. Totally. And now when you include God into it, everything's just the slow ladder that you climb up instead of sideways or down. Right. Yeah. I think one of the biggest things that lately has been really hitting me is what is taught versus what is caught in the world that we live in, right? Yeah. There's some things that are taught from the words that you speak, and there's some things that are caught from the actions that you show. You know what I mean? And so with kids, and I say this because of even just my dad, I'm just like, man, like there's so many things that he taught me with his words. Yeah. But what really established change in my life and has pushed me, even now that he's not here, to do what I do effectively, has been what I caught, meaning what I watched him do. Yep. Right. And there's something so beautiful about that. And I think we live in a world right now with social media where people are sick of being taught about Jesus. Right. They want to see it. And the catching of it is what's going to light that fire. It's not going to be the oh man, like it's just the message never changes.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like the message just gets twisted or screwed up because of the messenger.
Yeah.
You know how you ever hear the saying like, don't shoot the messenger?
Yeah.
Right. It's like, there's a lot of people when it comes to Christianity and comes about God's word, it's like, shoot the messenger. You know what I mean? Like that's I'm not saying violence right now. I'm using a figure of speech right now in the sense that that's what screws up the message. The message is not flawed in any way. It's perfect. Yeah. And so when we hear renditions of it that aren't really right, it's the messenger's problem. It's never the message's problem. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Well, that's what I think is so beautiful about kids, and like, sure, they'll repeat the things you say, but more than anything, they'll watch you and they'll do what you do. And so if you look at my daughter, Riley, like, she is a fitness beast. Yeah. And I don't even know if she knows it.
Yeah.
But that kid, she trains 16 hours a week in gymnastics. She's in school Monday to Friday, and she'll leave straight from school and go straight to gymnastics. She'll be there till 9:00 at night. And she does that 4 days a week. And so, like, she puts in more hours than I do in a training sense. Mm-hmm. And it's just so beautiful to see. Like, and it's just natural to her, but I'm assuming that she took it from me. Like, she saw it. Well, my dad goes to the gym every day. He does this. He eats this certain way. She has no choice but to follow along. Like, she's just naturally grabbed onto all of those things. And
she's observed.
Yeah.
Big time.
It puts more pressure on me, because now I got to be on my A game, because she's doing what I'm doing. So if I'm saying it's a normal thing to, be drinking on the weekends or doing this or doing that, like, she's approaching 18 quick, and she'll catch on to those things too. Right. So it's like,
oh my goodness,
it's beautiful.
It is beautiful. And I think that, well, what you just said is the best type of athlete, the best type of fame, the best type of everything is when you said she's a fitness beast or a gymnastics beast, and she doesn't even know it. And I'm like, that's the best right there. That's the best. Like, stay there, because you stay humble, right? 100%. You don't know you're there. You don't know you're the best. It's like that when people start to realize that there's always someone better than you, first of all. That's a very humbling thing that I've learned. Yeah. But that's a good place to be. That's a good place to be with for your daughter, because that's going to be. I'm curious as to where that's going to take her. Is she super into like competing gymnastics and all that kind of stuff, or is it more of like she just enjoys it as a recreational?
Yeah, no. So she loves competing. She really loved competing, but she was getting first on everything. And then she jumped up a level, and there was a point where she kind of started having fears around certain skills, because this next level, it comes with skills that are pretty scared.
Yeah.
It's pretty scary, to be honest. And so she wasn't able to push herself to get those skills. And so she went to a competition and didn't perform the way that she probably wanted to. And she did not do well at all in the placing, in the ranking, in the standings. And, she almost needed that, because we got to get humbled at some point.
Yep.
Whether it's, you think you're the best football player until somebody like, or like, even those boxers will say like, man, I thought I was good. And then he hit me in the mouth good. And like, I had to wake up and get on my A game. And so I honestly didn't want her to be getting first in everything forever.
No.
Because I was like, then she's never going to understand. Like, she needed that one little knockdown to just like spark something in her. And it knocked her down for a bit. Like, we fought for a good 3 to 6 months to kind of get her back to where she is now. But now she's back doing what she does. And now she has a different mindset and a different mentality when she's approaching, training and competition. So super competitive, wants to be great at everything she does. And I don't think it's for any other purpose than just to prove it to herself. So I think that's
person
important.
Or team that you never thought could beat you that beats you too. You know what I mean?
Totally.
It's like, that's how it's, and it goes back to full circle back to that verse that I told you about, where it's like, God can use the foolishness of the world to shame the wise, right? Shame is a hard word to use, and I'm not saying that in a way that he's trying to discipline anyone.
Yeah.
But it's a humbling experience, because he realizes that you can't you can't experience the best life ever if you don't do it in humility.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
Because first of all, if you're prideful, no one's down for that.
Yeah.
You know, you get so sick of the guy who walks in that's just always full of pride. I don't
Yeah.
care if he is the best. I don't want to be around him. I don't care how famous he is. I don't want his phone number. Like, I like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just like, gross.
Yeah,
This sucks.
Totally.
But and that kind of goes full circle, right? The guy who's amazingly strong and going into a game going, this guy's like way weaker than I am. And then he loses to the guy that he spouted off everywhere that this guy's way weaker than I am.
Yeah.
That's a humbling experience to realize that when you're at a level like that, you can be beat at any point in time.
For sure.
It's like the NHL too. I'm more of an NHL fan than I'm a football fan, but I used to play football, but I only played for one year in Bantam. Did I tell you this already?
I think so.
Okay.
Maybe, yeah.
So now I can save this story. I hated it because I was over the weight limit.
Okay.
Did I tell you that? I think I told you that.
Yeah.
So I was just like, I couldn't carry the ball.
Right.
I wasn't allowed to carry the ball.
Yeah.
And I was just like, well, this sucks.
Couldn't play the positions you wanted to play.
Yeah. I wanted to be a fullback. That was my goal.
Yeah.
I was 215 pounds and I was 13 years old.
Jeez.
So I was just like, and they're like, no, you got to be 180 pounds. I'm like, well, that's much more than a cut for me. Like,
no kidding.
I can't come down like whatever that is, 40 pounds to be carrying the weight. Yeah, that's what I mean. So I didn't really thoroughly enjoy it. I was all the middle linebacker. I was on the O line. I was on the D line. They put me everywhere. I was on kickoff for some reason. I don't even know why I was, right?
Well,
but
you're blocking.
I guess, yeah, I'm blocking. That's true.
Or hitting.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, it was fun that side. And the camaraderie was cool. But yeah, it's just one of those things. So even with NHL, when you get to playoffs, that's when you start to realize that it's like any team can win. It doesn't matter. They're all NHL pro players right now. So it's like whoever has the mentality and the mindset and, to be honest, the humility to keep going, it's like those are the ones that seem to go further than the others.
Yeah, well, that's like the Jets. I mean, that was a clear example of that when they scored that goal in the last second. And that was in game 7. And, you know, had one more second passed on the clock, they would have lost in the first round. And that was it for them. But they kept fighting and they put the puck in the net in the last second of the game.
That
and
was
they went on to the second round. So
that was
it would have been, it would have been cool if they could have kept rolling. But
and then there's you on Virgin Radio ads. I kept
doing
seeing you on those
backflips.
ads. Yeah. And I was like, oh yeah. I used to listen to Ace Burpee all the time.
Same. He used to come to my elementary school and
Really?
do talks. So it's
it's
20 years later. I'm
isn't
in
that
a video with
crazy?
him doing backflips. It's pretty cool.
And that's what I'm talking about before, man. It's just crazy where you go when you keep that filtered mindset, when you keep that humility, when you keep the bigger goal and the bigger purpose that you're just here for a different purpose, right?
Yeah.
You're doing things you love to do, but God's got a plan far bigger than you could ever even imagine.
Totally.
And that's the kicker. It's just like, oh my gosh, what's the trying to think of there's a question in my head, but I'm trying to frame it so it's not confusing. But what's been your favorite moment since getting this Instagram following? Has it connected you to people that you never thought you'd be connected to? Have it connected you to people that you thought like were almost your people you really looked up to, you thought you'd never meet, you thought you'd never connect with? Have you had those experiences yet? Or
Yeah, well, it's so crazy because when I look back at it, there was once upon a time where I had maybe 8K followers on Instagram, and these certain fitness influencers would follow me and they would have like 500,000 or 1 million followers. And I'd be like, oh my goodness, like this is like, can
So
you believe
cool.
it? This person just followed me. Like, look who this is. And now it's to a point where I've collabed with a lot of them and even passed a lot of them in following. And it's so crazy to look back at, like to see there were people that I once idolized, and to now just see that, you know, I have the opportunities to travel to LA or Arizona or wherever it may be. And I mean, I traveled to Arizona and I stayed in a football house with like some of the very well-known football creators and AJ Green and other people like that. And it's, the friendships and the opportunities that have come with it have been just so amazing, honestly.
I know that's the when you start to realize that you start to be in the rooms with people that have been famous or are still famous or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
you start to realize that everyone's just people going through their
Yeah.
emotions, trying to either make a living for themselves, trying to do their best, trying to do what they need to do.
Yeah. Well, that's a story that I actually have, is because one day I was in LA with my friend Obi, and he was on Too Hot to Handle, a
Mhm.
Netflix series.
Yeah.
And we ended up at this Celsius like event. And when I walked in, I swear there was every single person you've ever seen on Netflix was in this room, in this house. And I was just standing there and I'm just looking around like, what? And I said to him, bro, what? And he's like, I need you to remember this. You wouldn't be in this room if you didn't belong.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like all the hard work that you've put in is just a testament to where you're at right now. Like I've been in rooms and literally watched Russell Westbrook just like walk right past me. Like it was nothing. I'm like, that's a professional basketball player in the NBA who's like arguably going to be a Hall of Famer. Like, and for a second, you're just like, man, you're kind of starstruck and you're this and you're that. Or I've went to a New York Giants football camp and I was invited to the camp, but I'm getting there and like Daniel Jones is the guy throwing me the ball. And that is their starting quarterback of the New York Giants till this day. And I'm sure Odell Beckham was walking around and all these star players who I used to watch when I barely even knew how to catch a football. And now I'm at practice with these guys and it's making no sense in my mind.
No.
But then I just have to fall back on the understanding of like, man, all the work that I put in to get is just a testament to all of that work that I put in. And it's like, I wouldn't be there if I didn't belong. You know, ultimately I never made the team, but just getting the opportunity to go to that camp speaks something in and of itself.
Huge.
So it's like,
it's huge. It's, and you can't forget, I guess going back to the whole celebrating thing that we talked about earlier, it's like there's celebrating that needs to happen. You got to have fun. You got to enjoy life. You got to do these things. And I think you have to, like you've already said, you start to figure out what's the best way for me to do this that actually still builds the future that I see myself building, right? And what tears it down? Because that's a big question to ask. But we talked about purpose, and I think a lot of guys, what is our purpose? You know what I mean? Like with God, we understand that, but a lot of guys think that their purpose is something completely different. They think it's like their purpose could be getting into that room that you just described being in. That could have been someone's goal,
right?
But now that you made it in that room, what now?
Exactly.
Is there another room that is more famous that you want to get into now?
Right.
Or because to me, when you start to meet people like that, and same thing in my world, where it's just different, like whether it's pastoral or public speaking or these people that you meet that are amazing authors, there is what's the word? There's a letdown a little bit because you're like, oh, you're just a human being.
Totally.
You're talented. You're amazing. God's using you in so amazing way, but you're no different than me apart from maybe discipline.
100%.
That's it.
Yeah.
And I had to get over a hump of like, oh, like almost a letdown where I was like, huh.
Yeah.
Like sometimes it's better to see them on the court and you be in the chairs than it is to be on the court with them, because you lose that, right? And I think this is a really random analogy, but it goes back to even Jesus in his hometown, right? When it says he could do no miracles in his hometown. Right. It's because everyone was so familiar.
Yeah.
Everyone was so familiar with him. He wasn't Jesus the Messiah. He was Jesus, my bro. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and that was a difference between people having the faith to see him operate. And that's why he had to leave his hometown and be appreciated for who he truly was.
Right.
And I think that's a problem that we have in society right now, is that when you have greatness in front of you, when someone's doing such an amazing job, when it's there, it's never actually appreciated in your hometown,
right?
But it is appreciated outside of your hometown, right? And Jesus saw that. But how beautiful would his story have been if he would have been appreciated in his hometown? You know what I mean? You'd have seen different miracles. You'd have seen different relationships and different families and transformation. But that's a big hurdle that I had to get over when you meet some people like that, like John Maxwell, for one. Like it's like, for me, that was like oh my goodness.
A big thing.
Massive, man. Like this guy wasn't the most famous person, but every famous person that wants leadership knows John Maxwell.
Yeah.
And they go to him for his books and they go to him for his teaching and they pay for his mentorship.
Yeah.
And then here I am, I can text him up and call him up, and I'm like,
Oh.
yeah, but and it's not saying that to brag, it's saying that to go, there was a hump I had to get over where I felt like, oh, like it's just, I don't know. Did you know what I'm saying? Did that happen to you or no?
Yeah, there's like,
it's a loaded question, I know.
No, totally.
But there's a purpose there, right? And if your purpose is on that and your sights are set on that purpose, you lose track pretty quickly, because it's not like, it's great to have the mentorship and the friendship and seeing people and having the collaborations and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's not what you thought it was, I'm sure.
No, 100% not. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. I mean, the more I just keep working, the more opportunities present themselves, the more I can travel and work with people that I never thought, I would ever be in the same room with. I go to LA and I get the opportunity to work with Ron Boss, who's Kevin Hart's trainer. I go to his gym all the time. And one day he said to me, he's like, man, I respect you and I respect your grind. My house is your house. Anytime you want, come here. You don't got to pay. You're hustling, you're grinding, you're trying to make something of yourself. And he just opened me in there with open arms. And I'm just like, man, it's just beautiful.
Yeah, it is.
Honestly.
It is. Yeah. The relationships, right? You get lifelong relationships, but, and I think it's testament to, it's like, with your work ethic, with your discipline, with your mindset, that has put you into the rooms that you're in. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's not like, yes, you got Instagram famous. Yes, you have a ton of followers on Instagram, but it's like, that's not the reason.
Well, something I wanted to touch on before I had lost my train of thought, but it's like, it's really in the journey.
Yeah.
Because before I was in the CFL, when I was playing in university football, I used to just say to myself, all I want to do is score touchdowns in the CFL. And, I had it in my mind that, like, once I got there, once I did that, it would just be this miraculous feeling, or I would have made it, or I would have arrived. And it's like, you've never arrived. A good friend of mine, Trevor Harris, quarterback of the Saskatchewan Roughriders, he always would say, like, man, you've never arrived. Like, it's all in the journey.
Yep.
And so when I finally got to the place, and he actually threw me my first ever CFL touchdown, but when you finally get to the place where you're now doing the things that you once dreamed of doing, it's almost empty. Like, and so, like, I had to start finding other things to root my identity in, or to feed my spirit with, like, because those things, although they are cool, the journey and the process that it takes to get there, and the ups and downs that you go through to get to that point, is like much more meaningful.
Oh,
that catching that touchdown, it's a beautiful moment, but that is just a symbol of all the work put in prior to getting there. And so the journey is beautiful.
Well, you hit the nail on the head with that, because that's what makes that touchdown much more memorable. You know what I mean? It's not because, like, the memories that just happen on a whim, those memories stick with you because they're just like, oh, it happened on a whim. But the ones that, like, you've built,
put in that
and
work,
put in the work, and you've woken up early and you've done these things, that's the side that is like, you can't trade that.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's
Beautiful.
just crazy. I got to figure out this verse, because there's a verse that's been in my head. And even before, there's some things in the Bible that make me just wonder like crazy, like Solomon. So Solomon, have you ever read Proverbs?
Yep.
So Proverbs is like one of the most applicable books of the Bible, because it's all about real world life, real world circumstances, what you're going through, how to change, how to do all that kind of stuff, right? It's wisdom. It's about foolishness,
right? And
it's Solomon, right? Solomon's historically, they say still the richest man in history to ever walk the earth.
Right.
They said he was worth around, in today's terms, probably about $3 trillion. Wow. Right? Insane. And so he wrote Proverbs in the middle of his reign as a king, in the middle of the reign of him, in the middle of the grind, but also he was in the middle of the celebration, and he's the king. He's enjoying life, right? Totally. Then Ecclesiastes comes in, because Solomon has compromise that happens in his life. And
Mm-hmm.
the Bible literally says he had like 700 and some wives.
Wow.
And he goes down this because he's king. He can do whatever he wants, right?
Yeah.
And then he writes Ecclesiastes, and Ecclesiastes after he loses the kingdom. He loses it because of his compromise. And he writes Ecclesiastes as an opportunity to show people that, oh my goodness, this is what life is like without God.
Yeah.
And never, ever, ever. Like you can see Proverbs all about wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
And then he actually succumbs to foolishness.
Right.
Loses the entire kingdom, and then writes Ecclesiastes. And it was something that was so cool. I was like, man, the people in the Bible, sometimes it's hard to view them as just like another person like we just said. But if we got in the rooms with some of those people, you'd probably be like, oh, they're just a person like me.
Totally,
you know what I mean?
totally.
But what changed? Their mindset, their discipline, their all that kind of stuff, right? Like that's what happened. How do you stay disciplined?
Me personally?
Yep.
It didn't come easy. It takes essentially, it takes a million tries. So you have to do it, then you have to fail, and then you have to do it again, and you have to fall off again. And then you just keep going. And that's what finally gets you there. It's not about biting off more than you can chew, because that's a pitfall straight back to where you were. But essentially, this is probably the biggest thing that I've ever had to have discipline, and the hardest thing that I've ever overcome in my life. Single-handedly was drug addiction.
Yeah.
You have to have tremendous amount of discipline to wean yourself off of drugs. It is the hardest thing I've ever done, and I did it with only God, not with AA meetings or not with, addictions counseling. I did it cold turkey myself. But it took 1,000 tries of me quitting, to literally me falling off, waking up. That's it. I'm done. I'm never going back. I go a week. I fall off again. Wake up. That's it. I'm done. Okay, I'm going to go 2 weeks now. Boom, fall off in 3 days. Okay, I quit again. And I quit again. And I quit again. And I quit again. Until finally those stretches get longer and longer and longer. Mind you, there's probably a lot of self-reflection, a lot of self-work that I'm doing in between there that are making it easier, because obviously the reasons that I was using for, if I'm doing the self-work, it's like getting to the root of the problem, right? The drug addiction isn't the problem. It's what's underneath that. And so a lot of times we like to put a Band-Aid on that. Sure, you can go to rehab, but rehab is putting a Band-Aid on it. They're just keeping you out of it for a month or two without actually getting to the root of the problem. Now, don't get me wrong. Some rehab centers may offer the right counseling that'll allow you to deal with those things. But essentially what it is you got to get to the root of the problem. And so that was what I did through all that self-help, all the self-help books I read, all the digging and into like, why do I feel the need to like fill a void? Or is there something to do with me growing up without a father that has me feeling empty inside, or has me lashing out in anger, or has me turning to a bottle for comfort, or like, what is it, And so literally my discipline in that came from just quitting over and over and over again and just doing the work on the side, which led to a lifetime of freedom now. But where I find my discipline is just doing the small things right, So if you're struggling with being disciplined to, stay fit, it's like, don't build a schedule that says go to the gym 5 days a week.
Yeah, you used to text me this all the time.
Yeah, it's just not realistic.
Yeah.
Or if you want to become a reader, like, don't say I'm going to read every single day for an hour. Like, start small,
Guilty.
Like, exactly.
Hugely
and
guilty.
so am I, because we all want to bite off more than we can chew.
Oh, yeah.
We all want that microwave success, they call it, where it's like, yup, one day I have no good habits, and then the next day I read, I go for jogs, I work out every day, I drink my water, I take my supplements, I eat healthy food. Like, that's just not going to happen, right? It's got to start small, and it's got to get to a point where it feels good to do those things.
Yeah.
And so, whether you're disciplined, whether you want your disciplines to be fit, to build good relationships, to read more, literally start with a glass of water, build discipline, flex that muscle a little bit. It's like It's like going to the gym and building your bicep. You can't just get one crazy pump for 10 hours and expect that your bicep is just going to be huge
No,
forever.
you're gonna have
Like
ruined muscles.
you're going to have a ruined muscle and it's not going to grow anyways. And so you got to hit it for an hour,
Yeah.
go home, sleep, and do it again. And so it's
Learn to
just
enjoy it. Hey?
rinse and repeat. Exactly. Learn
Yeah.
to enjoy it and flex that muscle. And you start with a glass of water every single day. And once you get comfortable with that, 2 weeks, 3 weeks down the line, maybe I'll add a 20-minute walk into there. Start doing that. A month goes by. Okay, you know what? I want to do like 2 or 3 gym sessions a week. Maybe I'll just go for like 30 minutes to an hour, feel it out, nothing too crazy. Boom, you start doing that. Well, now you got 3 new habits over the course of a year, but a lot of us will go the whole year not doing what we know we need to do.
Mm-hmm.
New Year's will come by.
Yep.
Make this big resolution for ourselves. 2 weeks later, we all have fallen off.
100%.
90% of the people who set their goals are no longer on track.
Yep.
And it's because they bit off more than they could
Yep.
chew. And
consistency compounds. I heard that.
Consistency
And that was
compounds.
And that doesn't mean every day needs to be the consistency you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're just saying, like, even if you just start working out once a week,
but
just stay consistent to what your plan is.
Exactly. It's just flexing that muscle and just making it become more of a routine. And it gets to a point like I did a 60-day transformation with my mom.
Yeah.
And
how'd that go?
Oh man, she lost over like 80 pounds. Like over the course of like the last 3 or 4 months. But
yeah,
during that 60 days, she lost like 60 pounds. Yeah. And there's a video. I still have a video. We haven't put it together, but she did phenomenal.
You got to put that together. That's going to go big.
Yeah, totally. But it got to a point where when we started, or before we even started, like she couldn't fathom going to the gym. Hated it. Hated the idea of exercise. And now when a day passes where she hasn't exercised or moved her body or gone on a walk or eaten healthy foods, like she doesn't feel herself.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's like something's off, something's missing. And now she genuinely enjoys going for those walks and going to the gym for a bit or whatever it may be. So
you get addicted to feeling how you should feel.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Totally. I think you get so used to feeling crappy
mm-hmm.
and that's your normal.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then when you're stuck in that, I always have this habit that if I fall off the bandwagon off the wagon of working out, and then I don't work out for a while, then I go back and work out, I always work out way too hard.
Too hard.
So there's one time
like I'm going to make up for all those days I missed.
Yeah. I'm like, my muscles don't feel sore yet. I'm going to do another set.
Exactly.
Not realizing that those first 3 sets are going to make me real sore. Just
and
going to be an hour later.
And you're cooked.
Yeah. And so me and my wife we always laugh about this one time because there was one time where I worked out my biceps so bad that and my triceps actually, that I couldn't feed myself.
Oh my
I
gosh.
couldn't bring my hand to here. I'm not even joking. Yes. And I mean, sore is an understatement.
Yeah.
Like it was excruciating pain. Yes. Because my muscles, like, you know how it's like when you finally get them to bend.
Oh yeah.
And then you can sit there and it feels really good. But then when you go back, it hurts again. I literally had to bring the fork with my hand like this to get me to bite something. And just like, if you knew my wife, she's the type of person that would be sitting across from me, rolling her eyes at the fact that I got myself into this situation and probably laughing too. Like that's just how she is. And it's just like, I'm like, I don't know. I can only blame myself right now, but
totally.
Oh my gosh, it was so funny.
Well, I was just I mean, the lesson in that is like, to me, I've gotten so used to what it feels like to feel really good that now that is actually what deters me most from drinking is I know what I'll feel like the day after. And I know what that'll keep me from doing in my day-to-day life. Like if I wake up and I'm hungover, I'm probably not going to the gym.
No.
I'm probably not going to be the best version of myself when I'm trying to be a father or trying to be in my relationship or whatever it may be. And so like the cost is just too much.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this great quote where it's like, I hope I don't butcher it, but I think it's like, change happens when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of changing.
Yeah.
So it's like, once you get a taste of that good life or what it feels like to feel just normal.
Oh yeah.
In good health, eating foods from the earth, drinking water regularly and just moving your body a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be like, wow, this is different. But if you don't ever go there, you don't ever experience what it feels like.
Oh,
and
yeah.
You're probably just going to stay where you're at.
It's like the everything in life is hard.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Choose
like,
your hard.
Yep, exactly. And and I think that's a very good quote for people, because it's like living with diseases that are probably brought on because of your lack of doing something too is very hard, and harder than disciplining yourself just to go on that walk or get on that treadmill. And I'm not saying go run to go sprint. I'm saying go walk.
Yeah.
Oh, you're going to watch a show anyways? Bring your tablet downstairs and go for a walk and watch something.
Yeah, treadmills with Netflix on
That's
them.
what I mean. It's ridiculous.
There's no excuses in today's day and age, man.
There's none. And I think that's the kicker. One of my favorite, I was looking at this verse because it was my favorite verses, and I almost know it off by heart. Not this one, because it's a better, it's from Paul and it's in Philippians, and it reminded me of you, because I'm like, I wonder if this is something that you feel in what you caught, in your discipline, in your motivation, in your upbringing, in it not being the best upbringing, and you having a hard life, and you creating something out of it. Paul talks about learning to be content in all situations. Yeah. And I think that's, I'll read it. It's from Philippians. This is the Amplified, so it's a bit longer, but and this is one of my favorite verses, if not my favorite verse. And it grounds me to realize that no matter what I'm going through, no matter what I'm in, no matter how I feel, I need to make sure this is my mindset. And this is what he says. He says, not that I speak from any personal need, for I've learned to be content and self-sufficient through Christ, satisfied to the point where I'm not disturbed or uneasy, regardless of my circumstances. I know how to get along with and live humbly in difficult times, and I also know how to enjoy abundance and live in prosperity. In any and every circumstance, I have learned the secret of facing life, whether well-fed or going hungry, whether having an abundance or being in need. I can do all things which he has called me to do through him who strengthens and empowers me to fulfill his purpose. I am self-sufficient in Christ's sufficiency. I'm like,
jeez. Mic drop right there.
I know. I'm just like, Paul. That's why you always hear me preach, and I'm just like, it's our boy Paul again. I always keep saying that because it is. And the things that he says is insane in the Bible, right? But it's so true. And that's exactly the explanation of where you get in success in your life when you keep God at the center. It's just like, you're like, he's not saying you won't go through hard times. He's just saying those hard times will be smoothed over with me.
Oh, yeah.
Or you can get stuck in the pain and feel like you can never get out.
Man, that was like the message you had the other day, where it was like, when you're praying or having hope, right? You talked about having hope. And it's like, don't hope. You can have hope that something will go a specific way, or you can have hope that no matter which way it goes, God's got it taken care of.
Yeah.
Right. And so
circumstantial or not.
And I think honestly, to me, that's what gives life meaning. That's what makes life so beautiful. I welcome all of the good times, the bad times, whatever it may be, is because that's what makes me human. And like, when we feel pain, it reminds you that you are human. And if you can just sit there and sit in it and not allow it to control your story in the negative way, but use it for fuel in whatever way that you can, I think it's so powerful. And it all comes down to perspective and how you look at things. And, we've talked about the victim's mindset and just not having that. And I used to have that bad. I used to have it bad, and I don't have an ounce of it now. I can genuinely say that. Maybe there's something that just hasn't come my way where, maybe it's still in me, but I truly feel like I don't have an ounce of victim's mindset left in me. And things will come up and I'll be like, okay, let's pivot. Like, what do we got to do? Like, I was going to do, and this isn't a crazy story or anything profound, but I was going to do my 2 million follower photo shoot the other day. And I had ordered this beautiful 2M done in black flowers. So I had this flower company do them up in black flowers. And I had envisioned what it was supposed to look like. And when I went there to pick it up, it was not that. It was not presentable. It was not up to my standards. I couldn't put it on camera. And so I'm like, okay, this sucks.
Yeah.
And I could have sat there and complained and had a terrible day and been like, this this shoot is ruined or, you know, whatever. But I was like, man, that sucks. I really wanted those flowers, but maybe God didn't want the flowers in my shoot. And so I'm like, you know what? I'll pivot. So I called Party Stuff and I decided to go with balloons. Had 2M in balloons and they look good. Helium balloons, black 2M. It was great. Go to my shoot. The balloons pop in the parking lot. And the second it popped, I remember turning around and looking at it. And I just started laughing. I was like, this is honestly comical at this point.
Totally it is.
Like, you can't, I was like, you can't make this up.
No.
I was like, nothing in this world wants me to have 2M in this photo shoot. And so we ended up doing the photo shoot without any balloons, any flowers, and it turned out beautiful.
Yeah.
And I was just like, you know what? And I gave a speech to my team before we started. And I was just like, you know what? Everything that happened today is a testament to where we're at today. And it's going to continue to go like this throughout our lives. But when an obstacle comes in front of us, we're going to kick that door down.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to pivot. We're just not going to accept it. You know, we're going to figure our way around it and we're going to continue pushing forward. And so I could have just easily had the victim's mindset and been like, this shoot sucks. It's ruined. I don't want to do it. And you know what? Cancel it. We'll do it next week. We'll try and no, like, you just keep rolling and, you know, things will be all right. So,
I always laugh because I'm like, God has a sense of humor.
100%. That's exactly what my laugh was in that moment.
I don't want to over spiritualize it because this is not biblical in that way. I mean, you could maybe use the strength and the weakness verse that I've that's come up a couple times in this podcast, but I just laugh because he's just like, hey, Shai, like, I'm just going to show you what got you here. You know what I mean? Okay, so this failed and you kept going, and this failed and you kept going, and that's what got you to 2 million. You know what I mean? Like it's, and that's what's going to get you to 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7. There's going to be just bigger problems. Everyone always, if I get to that, no. If you get to that, your problems are bigger. You've just learned the resilience, the discipline, the motivation. You know how to get out of it quicker. Yep. You've lost the victim mindset, which is fantastic, but that doesn't mean you're not going to slide back into victim roles sometimes. But the beauty is that you've gotten to a place now you get out of that in 30 minutes, 30 seconds, 5 minutes, 2 minutes, instead of a month, a year, 2 years, where people are still blaming what happened back then as to where I am now. And it's like, no.
30 years, I've seen people go where they're still talking about that same thing that happened to them 30 years ago.
And that's circumstantial hope.
It's like, dude, are you going to let that one thing hold you back? Or you just allow it to be your story, allow it to fuel you to go. Like, you should want better for yourself looking back at that. Like,
totally. And that's where I'm finishing that hope series at church this Sunday. And it's different because I'm finishing it off by talking about hope is a weapon you use. Yep. It's not something you find. It's not something you have to achieve. It's not something you finally grab a hold of. In the world that we live in without God, hope is something you have to always look forward to or look for or build. Yep. Whereas with God, once you have a relationship with him and you make those disciplines of going to church, having a relationship, then you already have been given hope. The Bible talks about it being like a helmet. It's the helmet of hope, right? And it's like, done. You're good. Everything's fantastic. Now you get to use the hope God's given you as a weapon against everything that's hitting you. Right. And that's the difference between it is the guys who go, I think, at least in the Christianity aspect of things with your relationship with Jesus, they've just learned to use it as a weapon now. It's like, no, I know this is going to turn around. I know. I was texting a guy with all the wildfires that's happening in Manitoba. I was texting one of my good friends that has some businesses and different things, and some of those businesses are they're in a side right now where it's like the wind changes, I lose everything. Right. The wind doesn't change, I don't lose a thing. Right. It's like, and his text to me was just like, I've been in places like this before. And he's like, what happens will happen is what he said. And he's like, I know God's got an amazing plan. And in the times that I've hit a wall that has been as big as this, he's like, he catapulted my business forward, right? Like you said, tenfold, 10 times, right? And now he's using the hope as a weapon. Yeah. You know what I mean? He's like, no, this is my hope now, and you can't take this hope from me.
Yeah.
This hope's not going to disappoint. And I don't care if the world throws this at me. I don't care if I have to grieve the loss of someone. I don't care. My hope is not diminishing. My hope is that's always going to be in the fact that God has always shown up and will always shown up. I just got to change my perspective of what I'm looking at in order to see the results.
Well, that's exactly it. Is like, how many battles have you gone through that you didn't make it through? None.
Exactly.
Like, you're literally sitting here, and to anybody that's watching this podcast, it's like, what have you gone through that you haven't gone through? Like, you've made it through all of it. And so whatever else comes up, you'll make it through that as well. So
totally.
You got to have that mindset.
100%. That's hope in the Bible that we see. A lot of the people, they talk about hope being something that you remember all the time, right? It's the replay in your mind of God's faithfulness always, 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 always. If you go back to how you've made it through, then when you're going through something really hard, it won't really deter you because you know what you've been through. And you're like, no, this is just another simple step.
Totally.
And if it's the biggest thing that you've ever gone through, then guess what? You've now just upped your ceiling to what you can handle. Exactly. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's the beauty of it. It's like every single thing you go through, everything you fight for, everything you make it through becomes your new floor now.
Totally.
And you just stand on that floor and you go even further. And that to me is just like, oh, I love John Maxwell once said it to me. He said, you don't do hard things because you're trying to get to easier things. You do hard things so you can do harder things. Right? And I'm just like, yeah. I was like, that hit me hard. I was like, the lazy person's not going to want to hear that, right? So it's like, if you're not doing something because you're kind of scared to do it, then go do it. Right. You know what I mean? But if 100%. You're not doing something because you're like, oh, I've done that before, I want to teach someone else to do it, then that's great. Yeah. But it's like, no, step in there and go do it. Do you have a favorite Bible verse? I don't want to put you on the spot, but is there something, and you can paraphrase it. It doesn't matter. I'm not I can't quote hardly any of the Bible. That's okay. Yeah. But what is there a Bible verse that's something to you that's always stood out? Maybe you have a tattoo of it. I don't know.
No. I totally knew you were going to ask me that, so I did come prepared.
Did you?
And I don't know it off heart because I literally just read it like 3 days ago.
Yeah.
But it just rang so true to me. And it says, "Be of sober spirit, be on alert. Your adversary, the devil, prowls like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour." And the reason that just hit me so hard was because of that message that I told you that I received in church, where God was just like, what I have planned for you, alcohol has no place. And when he says, be of sober spirit, be on the alert, is because the fleshly desires that are so easy to fall victim to it makes it so much harder to resist those temptations when you are not of sober mind, when you are not alert to those things. Like, you have to be awake and understand the ways that the devil will try and pull you in or get you. And it's like, when I was stuck in that way of living, I almost call it like I wasn't awake. I wasn't aware of like what was going on. I wasn't even aware that I was trapped in this like this cage that was placed on me by the devil. And it was like, once I finally broke free from that, and now I can walk through my life and my day to day and understand like what's trying to pull me into temptation right now, or what's trying to like take me out of my game. And it rings true to me, because where I'm headed, alcohol has no place. Be of sober mind, be of sober spirit, and it will just allow me to flourish in those things, and also stay away from those fleshly desires that humans have, that I have, and many people have struggled with.
Being alert is huge.
100%.
And that I love that verse. I love it. And it's funny that you knew I was going to ask that, because I haven't asked one guest on this podcast.
Oh, wow.
Just so you know, not one. So that's kind of funny that you're like, I came prepared. I knew you were going to say this. And it's like, I actually haven't asked anyone that. The one thing, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
I had on there.
Oh no, these podcasts for me, it's like legitimately, it's just the conversations. I just enjoy it. Where it goes, I have no agenda. It doesn't matter to me. It's the fun of it, and it's just the fun of the conversation, and hopefully those that listen just can glean something from the conversations and help with their mindset. And for me, you can grow in wisdom from anyone, and I think that it's always beautiful to allow to have an open enough mentality and
Yep.
heart to allow yourself to learn from anyone.
For sure.
You've never made it.
Yep.
Was something that really hit me hard recently was that I was at a conference with listening to John Maxwell, and he just said, he's like, there's no finish line for me.
Totally.
He's like, I'm just, and it's the same, similar to what you said with the journey, right? It's like, everyone thinks you finally made, no.
Yeah,
He's like,
you
just
never arrived.
No, you just keep striving, you keep going, you keep working hard, you keep the discipline, you keep the motivation, and maybe there might be someone that listens that kind of makes them go, oh my gosh, I have to grind more. And it's like, but you'll understand that when you get to the goal that you have, you kind of lose your sense of purpose sometimes, because you're like, well, what am I working towards, right? And that's where my faith grounds me. But that was a big one for me. It's like, it doesn't matter. I'm always going to be busy. I'm always going to have fun. I'm always going to enjoy life. And when I feel like I've made it, that's like honestly a sign of the devil, I think, to me. I'm like, I haven't made it. Let's just keep going. Let's keep working hard.
Well, people always say like, oh, when I get the picket white fence and the home and I have a wife and 3 kids, like that's when I'll know I've made it, or but it's like, what about when you just have your wife and your 1 kid, and you don't have a home yet? Like, you're going to skip through all those years waiting to get to that 1 year, only to realize like, man, I just burnt through all those years and I didn't actually take the time to embrace it and enjoy it. And so that's just one of the biggest things for me right now, is understanding like, sure, I'm excited about where I'm going in the direction of my life, and, you know, in the future when I have more kids and get married and whatnot, but where I'm at right now is beautiful. And everything I'm doing here, sitting on this podcast or getting to create content, I seen this quote where it's like, you will never be as young as you are right now. So like, you better enjoy it. Cause you know, we always wish we're years in the future, but it's like, dude, you know that you will never have this body, this health, this ever again. Like, enjoy this right now, because it's only, you're running out.
Seriously. Do you ever watch The Office?
No, I
never got into that humor.
No.
Okay, I didn't really either for a while, and then I got into it. But there's one point in the Office which is like super stupid humor, right? It's just like, but one guy in there, I can't remember his name. He's in his like little interview, but he says something so wholesome that I'm like, oh my goodness. But he just says, I wish that when you are, when you are in the good old days, you could recognize that you're in the good old days right now, right? Because we always look back on times. I was like, oh, the good old days, man. But you never really see that you're in them now. And the truth is, you are in them now.
Totally.
And so I think that gratitude that we have to remember that you're creating the good old days right now.
Yeah.
And so when you become grateful for what you have, for where you're going, for what you've been through, for what you don't have, like grateful for the fact that there's still things to strive for, and there's still discipline to be had, and there's still like, that's the beautiful part of that. And scripture says it too. It's like, today is a day I will rejoice in, simply because God created it.
Yep.
And everyone thinks I'm only going to rejoice if the day goes the way that I want it to go. And it's like, stop making your life completely based on circumstances. Because if you do, you will hate your life.
Oh yeah.
The devil will give you so many reasons to hate it, right? But God just says, just rejoice in it and watch how you change your mindset and change what you do.
Totally.
And man, it's good. But let's, do you mind if I pray for you?
I would love that.
Yeah. Okay. And then we'll end I know you have to get to your beautiful daughter too. So let's pray, and then let's end the podcast there. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
All right. In Jesus' name, God, we just thank you. And we thank you so much for Shai. We thank you so much for who he is. We thank you so much for where you've brought him through and where you continue to lead him. God, I just thank you that his confidence and his strength just rise up in you every single day. I thank you that you've created him for even more than what he's doing right now. And he has the capacity, he has the strength, he has the peace, he has everything he needs to go forward and do more for you. God, I thank you that you just continue to raise him up, continue to strengthen him, continue to be there with him. God, we thank you for supernatural healing and strength upon his body. We just thank you that he can go forward and he's going to do so many amazing things for you in this amazing world and amazing purpose you've put inside each of us and in him, God. So I just thank you that you bless him, that he's highly favored, that everything he touches just turns to something so beautiful, God. Bless his family, bless his child on the way as well, God. And we just thank you for all of them right now. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen and
Amen.
amen. Awesome. I hope you guys have enjoyed this podcast and this chat. Like always, many of you are watching and you're not subscribed, you're not liking, you're not sharing. So make sure you like, you subscribe, you share. If this conversation helped you, go follow Shai. You probably already are following Shai because everyone in Winnipeg seems to be following Shai right now. But go follow him. It's just Shai Ross is 83. Is that your
Shai
your
Ross
handle?
83, yeah.
There you go. And he has awesome content for that too. But apart from that, enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you here at the next episode. See you guys later.